about defense mechanisms. Good thing to discover. Not discover, but good thing to explore.
Yeah.
Because people have defense mechanisms that they use, and I have talked about these defense mechanisms before, echelon front, like talking to clients, talking to people, talking about leadership. And we're gonna get into some of those, I think, but they're rooted in the idea of defense mechanisms, which is what everybody has kind of heard of. We have these, what a defense mechanism is, psychological defense mechanism is an unconscious psychological operation that a person conducts to protect themselves from anxiety, from stress, and from those feelings from developing. So, there's a website, verywellmind.com, and I just grabbed some of these defense mechanisms. One of them is displacement, which is when you take your feelings out on someone else. And the example of this is being angry at your boss, but taking it out on your spouse instead. Does this make sense now what a defense mechanism is?
Yeah,
You've heard this term before, right?
What, defense mechanism?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time.
Of course, yeah,
But I'm wondering, and I'm kind of looking at these, I guess it's just real in general, because, defense mechanism is like, sometimes they're viewed as like a bad thing, like misappropriated, like you don't have to use this, but you are.
We'll get into that, because
Okay,
there's different levels too.
Yeah.
There's different levels, there's different types. There's some of them that are extremely bad.
Yeah.
So we'll get to them.
Okay.
But I think first just going through some of them, denial, clearly, denying that something exists, that's a defense mechanism. Violent crime happens to you and you deny that it even happened. Repression, unconsciously keeping unpleasant information from your conscious mind. Get abused as a kid and you repress that memory. Or suppression, consciously keeping unpleasant information from your conscious mind. So you choose to push it out of your mind. Sublimation, converting unacceptable impulses into more acceptable outlets. What does this mean? You get into a fight with your spouse, or you get into an argument with your spouse and you start to get angry, but instead of getting in a fight, yelling and screaming, you go for a walk or you go hit the heavy bag or something like that. That's sublimation. Projection. You hear this one a lot, right? You're projecting.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Wedding Crashers?
Yeah.
Good use of the word projecting in there. You're projecting.
Which, I don't remember that part.
I can't remember the context of it. I just remember it being funny.
Yeah.
Assigning your own unacceptable feelings or qualities to others. So if you're feeling, the example that they give you, you're feeling attracted to someone other than your spouse, but then you get mad at your spouse thinking that they're cheating on you. So you're projecting your own inadequacies onto someone else.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Intellectualization. God, butchered that one. Intellectualization. This is thinking about a stressful thing in a super clinical way. Kind of an interesting one, right? And the example here is losing a close family member and staying busy with making necessary arrangements instead of feeling sad. Rationalization, justifying an unacceptable feeling or behavior with logic. And they give a good example for this one. Being denied a loan for your dream house, then saying it's a good thing because the house is too big anyways. Right? You're just rationalizing. Regression, reverting to earlier behaviors, hugging a teddy bear when you're feeling stressed like you did when you were a child. Reaction formation, replacing an unwanted impulse with its opposite. So being sad about a recent breakup, but acting happy about it. So those are just some examples, and there's a lot more. But to your point earlier, your suspicion was these can have a negative connotation. You are correct. So there's I think these were level 1 pathologies. These are pathological defense mechanisms. So these are bad. These are as bad as it gets. One is delusional projection. These are where you are projecting on someone a complete delusion. Total denial. Like, this did not happen. As opposed to like, no, I don't think it was that bad.
Right.
But no, that didn't happen. Total denial. And then one is distortion. This is a gross reshaping of reality. So these things are pathological. Like, these are going to be extremely problematic for the person that is experiencing these things. And then the next level they have is it's not going to be a pathology that's going to cause you significant duress or issues, but it's definitely a problem. These, they just call them immature. So acting out, hypochondria, passive aggressive, projection, and then they had one term which I hadn't actually never heard before, which was splitting, which was seeing everything as black and white. You know when someone flies off the handle and like you can't have a rational conversation with them because everything is black and white to them?
Yeah.
That's that. And it's kind of immature.
Yeah.
It's like when, you know, your kids are, well, I don't even want to go then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're taking like, we could have gone to the birthday party, but you didn't want to clean your room. I don't even want to go then. It's like black or white.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like that type of thing. At least that's the way I understood it, my very novice way of reading through these things.
Yep. It seems like like that splitting has like similar to false dichotomy. I know it's like a different way of conceptualizing, but false dichotomy is the kind where you do it as a joke to me sometimes when I was like, oh, you were paying, we were talking about the taste of certain things, where I was like, oh, it's not very hardcore, the making it taste all delicious. And you're like, well, yeah, what else am I gonna do? Make it taste like complete crap? You know, like, bruh, that's false dichotomy. You know, there's a bunch of different steps that you could have took besides the, you know, the extreme kind of a thing. But in a way, splitting kind of follows that same rule book in a way, where it's like they go extreme in the other direction.
Yeah, and I may have to when I was reading about splitting, I was kind of, there's more to it. There's more to it. So we'll probably dive into these things more. But the general idea that I got from it was, it's like, hey, this is either black or white, and you end up sort of doing that in an immature way.
Yeah, like, you know, the idea of you're either with me or against me kind of a thing. You know, like that seems like real black and white.
Yeah.
You know, like with my...
Yeah. Then the next level towards a healthy, which is kind of weird because to me, immature sounds worse than, or sounds better than neurotic. But the next level, which is less bad. So the worst is pathological. The next one is immature. The next one is neurotic. Which was, the first one is displacement, shifting impulses or emotions to a safer outlet. Which means, it's sort of like, it's very similar to the first one I said, like, oh, you're in a fight with your wife, so you're mad at your boss, so you take it out on your wife. That's displacement. But this one is a little bit more positive, where you're taking an emotion that you have that's bad, and you're gonna put it onto something that is a little bit more acceptable. So, you know, and they actually, in the definition, well, they were talking about like having a sexual urge, and instead putting it towards something that's a little bit more acceptable.
Working out.
Yeah, like working out, or something along those lines. Dissociation. This one sounded pretty bad, where you have a drastic change of your personal identity. Like you start acting like a different person. And then this is the one we covered already. Intellectualization. Excessive analytical thought. So, well, as you pointed out, look, I've given people this advice before. Hey, something really bad happens. Give people tasks to do where they can kind of get distracted, for lack of a better word, on, for example, planning for the funeral. Like that, to me, is not a horrible thing. And that brings us to the last of these levels, which is just mature, which is using these defense mechanisms, but as almost in a positive way. It's like, yeah, it's just a defense mechanism. For instance, one of them is altruism. So what can I do that's positive that will kind of make me feel better about something that went wrong? Oh, you had to you had to take your kid to the doctor and they were mad about it. You know what? We're going to take you to the ice cream store too. You know what I'm saying? Like doing something nice. And on a bit, like, I guess on a more extreme way, let's say you owned a company and you were, you did something went bad with your product. And so you donated a bunch of money kind of altruistically. Humor, right? Humor is a good little defense mechanism that we use sometimes. If somebody picks on you, you kind of make fun of yourself. A little self-deprecation, I think that's cool. We already talked about sublimation, like you mentioned. Oh, we're gonna work out. Instead of getting mad, we're gonna work out. Instead of getting angry and frustrated and maybe lashing out at a person in a violent way, you go train jujitsu instead.
Yeah.
And then suppression, in a positive way, what suppression means is not I'm suppressing the fact that I was abused as a child. No, it's, hey, you know what? I'm gonna consciously decide that I'm not gonna get emotional right now because I've gotta deal with the situation at hand. So that's actually a mature thing to do. Hey, I can't freak out right now. I'm mad, but I have to deal with the scenario that I'm presently in. So these defense mechanisms are present, and just if you take them to an extreme, they can be really, really bad. If you use them correctly, then they're not necessarily bad. But if you can understand them and understand that other people might be doing these things, they can help you get through some sticky situations. Now, I